Hey, welcome to Let's Unravel, and I'm your friend Christina. Hot take. The Summer I Turned Pretty, the series on Amazon Prime, or The Summer I Turned Pretty, the book series. You have to pick one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll let you know my thoughts at the end of this episode. Thanks for stopping by. Whether you're a new listener or a friend of the show, I just wanted to say welcome. So we have some more exciting new things coming your way very soon. We're having new topics, we're having potential new guests, and many more things on the horizon. And you are not going to want to miss a thing. So make sure you are subscribed to us at Let's Unravel Pod on YouTube, and make sure you're following along on Spotify and Apple. I will let you know on Spotify, you can cast your vote on whatever our hot take is of the week. There is a poll right over on Spotify. Don't miss it. The way to find it is you press more under the show notes, you scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there is the poll. Cast your vote and let us know which way the hot take goes. Because after all, my opinions are great, but your thoughts are the ones that count. So I have one quick announcement. Last week, we talked all about focus, dreams, purpose, and Gilmore Girls. And I will let you know, I actually messed up one of the facts about Rory Gilmore. I said she didn't get into Harvard when actually she did get into Harvard, which is awesome because if you want to go back to last week's episode, episode 14, once you're done listening to this episode, and you can see how I messed up that fact about Rory not getting into Harvard when in fact she did get into Harvard, which actually makes the whole point of what I was saying so much better. Because when it came down to her dreams and her purpose, and she thought her dream was that she wanted to go to Harvard and instead decided to go to Yale, which just goes back to the fact that dreams evolve over time. What you think that you want at a certain age, whether you're a kid like Rory and she was dreaming about going to Harvard, or whether you're an adult and things evolve and you realize, hey, maybe Yale is the place for me. So thank you for bearing with me on that front. And now moving into our favorite topic here at Let's Unravel, win of the week. So the win this week is tied directly into the topic of this show. We are introducing a new segment on Let's Unravel today, and I'm really excited about this. So let's move into our topic of the week. What are we unraveling today? Let's unravel the pop culture report. So this is our win of the week. This is our topic of the week. It's the pop culture report. So this is something where we talk about pop culture. We talk about pop culture a little bit in each episode. We're talking about whether new movies, TV shows, or maybe some trending topics. And so for this week, what I'd like to start doing is introducing a new series. And it's called, like I said, the Pop Culture Report. It's either going to be in the beginning or the end of the month, depending upon how, the days fall. So when this episode is released, it's going to be probably the first few days in October. And so what we're going to be doing is a little bit of a recap of September. And some of these events might be bordering on the end of August, beginning of September. But what we're going to do is do a monthly recap on all things pop culture. Some of these ideas can be anything from movies. It could be internet niche topics, whether social media related, TikTok, you name it. And now, as we introduce this whole new series to the show, if you have any ideas or topics that you want discussed on Let's Unravel for the Pop Culture Report, please send a DM at our Instagram account at Let's Unravel Pod. So with introducing our new series, we are going to jump head first into the summer's hottest show that actually didn't end until September. And if you don't know what show I'm talking about, it may or may not have to do with our hot take this week. So without any further suspense, I am talking about The Summer I Turned Pretty, the series on Amazon Prime Video. So The Summer I Turned Pretty officially dropped the last episode of season 3. And in a lot of ways, the finale tied up some loose ends, but it actually left some bigger questions still unresolved, to the point they announced that they are going to be having The Summer I Turned Pretty, the movie. The author behind the whole series of The Summer I Turned Pretty is Jenny Han. Something that I think is so unique about this show is really the whole way the show has been marketed. And really, it comes from the mastermind of Jenny Han. She has been so involved in this project. And she's written a variety of other books. She's had other projects developed as well. One of the first projects that we see from her, she's a well-known author. She had written a series called To All the Boys I Loved Before. That got turned into a 3-movie franchise on Netflix. And within that movie series, there was another character that ended up getting their own spin-off show called XO Kitty. So we see that Jenny Han has actually done a variety of movies and now slowly done a spin-off series as well. What's really unique with The Summer I Turned Pretty is this whole show. The reason why people can't stop talking about it, why it really has this chokehold on society right now in pop culture today, is all due to Jenny Han, because she's the one that has meticulously mapped out everything. She was the one that really saw and wanted to have Taylor Swift's music involved in this show. She has really gone to the bat for this show. She has been really this quote unquote mastermind of building out different Easter eggs that people could find along the way. And you can really see that in this third season. It's the way that she marketed the whole show. When you first see season 1 to where we are in season 3, it's almost like she really can see the power that all this marketing does in order to put this show out. I think one of the reasons why it's so popular and another reason why people either love it or hate it, it's very present to what is going on in culture today. And by going on in culture today, I'm talking about music. A variety of the music catalog is a lot of hit songs, like whether they're on the top 100 song list or whatever the case may be. So in my opinion, what she has done with The Summer I've Turned Pretty is she has turned this show into really a time capsule piece. And the reason why I'm saying it's a time capsule piece is because what she's done is she has incorporated so many trending things, whether like TikTok dances. I mean, you even see that in this past season where she was having some of the girls try to learn a TikTok dance and all these different things. With this show is it's become this sign of the times where we're able to see that just like with previous shows at different points in time. So like a perfect example is if we look at the show One Tree Hill. One Tree Hill was such a great show, but the reason why I think it was so great was because it really was like a sign of the time of the early 2000s. And so when the show first came out, it was around like 2003, give or take. What you can see is so much of that show really reflects the early 2000s. I mean, even down to the fact that Chad Michael Murray is the lead actor in One Tree Hill. I mean, if Chad Michael Murray doesn't scream early 2000s, I don't know what does. And so when we look at The Summer I Turned Pretty, what they've done here is they've really focused in on what life is like in 2025, all the way to when the show first aired in 2022. When people go back to watch the show, it's gonna be like a time capsule piece where you go back and all of a sudden it's like, oh, these were the things that were trending at this point in time. And that is something that I think the show captures so well. Now, the marketing of it is so ingenious. And I think the reason why the marketing is so good is I've noticed that The Summer I Turned Pretty has consistently used this content creator, and his name is Reese. And so his handle on TikTok is called Reese with a movie camera. He blew up, I believe it was around 2020, around COVID. So he blew up on TikTok. And what's been really cool with his content is he has taken viewers behind the screen onto some of these different movie sets. And so some of these projects that he has helped market has been like The Summer I Turned Pretty. He's done it on this season. He's done it on previous seasons. He had helped with the whole marketing campaign for Superman, the most recent Superman that came out in July. And then he also helped on previous projects like the new Hunger Games movie, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And so what's been really unique is he knows what viewers want to see. He knows the different trends. It's almost like he knows what we want before we know what we want. And so in the marketing of this show, even when there was like a whole gap year where we didn't get any new episodes last season, and there could be this great big concern that no one's going to care about this show in a whole year, actually, it's not true. What this show did is it brought back anticipation. It brought back the excitement of waiting every single week for a new episode. And don't get me wrong, I love to binge watch a show. I think binge watching shows is like one of my favorite hobbies, but there has been such an excitement and an anticipation of having to wait every single week to actually get to one of these new episodes. It's really brought back that nostalgic feeling to it. And this third season is it seems like almost every time you go to watch an episode, all of the commercials, or not all of, but a good chunk of the commercials are actually these like brand deals done with the cast. In particular, I'm thinking about the Coach commercial that's done with Lola Tong. And I mean, it's so funny. You go from watching the show and you're watching Belly to all of a sudden you're seeing Lola in the commercial and it's for Coach. And I think that's also been something that it's intentional, but it doesn't feel forceful in the way when you used to watch a show in the early 2000s and all of a sudden, this intrusive commercial comes on, breaking up the whole flow of the show. And the greatest part is these commercials have really only been like 30 seconds. On occasion, they'll be a little bit longer. But really what this show has done, it has revamped the way popular TV shows can take over pop culture again. Because for so long, the most popular TV shows and movies have really been this binge watching. But what Jenny Han has done is she has revived the anticipation again. And then just when we think we're getting to the end of the series, because there's only 3 books, so 3 seasons. And just when you think, okay, this whole story is going to get wrapped up in one episode, everyone had all these theories that the finale, because she didn't list it as an episode, it could have been like 2 episodes that were like an hour and a half long and all these different ideas and theories. And instead, what happened is she released that there is going to be a movie. And I think it's really funny to see all of these different theories swirling around online. And I will say, if I'm going to throw my hat in the ring for a theory I believe, I will say that I can very much see her releasing a movie this Christmas. I do. I've seen the interviews where they've talked about how they're drafting a script or they haven't filmed anything. I mean, at this point in time, I don't know if I really believe anything they're saying because, I don't know, they've thrown us for so many loops. Honestly, I really just feel like with Jenny Han at this point in time, she's so smart and so clever, and I think she just loves to surprise us, the audience, that I could so see it being one of those things like, oh, well, like a play on words somewhere, and it being one of those things that it's like, oh yeah, we're releasing the movie this Christmas, you know, because Christmas means a great deal to The Summer I Turned Pretty, even though she's traditionally released all the series within the summertime, which once again, I think that goes back to excellent marketing on her point, where she would only release the series in the summertime. It became this summertime classic. Everything behind the series has been a very well thought out plan. It's been cool because even when you look at her previous work, like when she did To All the Boys I Loved Before, she had been involved to some degrees, but with The Summer I Turned Pretty, she's gotten to have a lot more involvement. I mean, she even got the opportunity to direct an episode, and I think that's huge for authors. You know, a lot of times authors that sell their work and it gets turned into a movie or a TV show, they don't always have a lot of involvement. It's usually very limited. And in this instance, with The Summer I Turned Pretty, Jenny Han's actually had a lot of involvement, and I think that's the reason why her characters have turned out so well. I mean, even in this last episode, and I'm going to do the best I can not to spoil the episode, but there might be a few spoilers, but I'll say one of the perfect examples of just this mastermind that Jenny Han is, characters such as like Jeremiah had been so unlikable through the majority of season 3, to the point they had to put on their social media sites that people couldn't harass the actor who was playing Jeremiah. And something that I think she did so perfectly is in this last episode, or really in the last like 3 episodes, is she's really created this redemption arc for Jeremiah where once again he can really become, I don't know if we're quite at lovable yet, but I do think he's very much likable, especially in the season finale where you start to look at him and it's like, oh, he was lost, you know? And it's the same thing when you look at Belly, how it's like Belly had been so unlikable, even though I still think Belly might need a little bit more of a redemption arc. But there is something that I love that she did in the finale, is she acknowledged how in this triangle between Conrad, Jeremiah, and Belly, and for anybody that hasn't watched the show, this love triangle has been very much like the Sabrina movie with Audrey Hepburn, where it's 2 brothers that are in love with one girl. Belly is the childhood friend of Conrad Fisher and Jeremiah Fisher. And so what ends up happening is both boys end up growing a big romantic connection with her, and they both date her at different points in time. Something that I think Jenny Han did very well and exceptional in just this outline of the finale is how she acknowledged exactly what the audience was thinking. In a lot of ways within this triangle between Conrad, Jeremiah, and Belly, it was easy to see that someone had to be the villain. So a lot of people villainized Jeremiah. Some people could have villainized Conrad, and then some people definitely villainized Belly for sure. And this finale is, we acknowledge that. Because it was already evident, a lot of the audience knew without saying that Jeremiah kind of looked like the villain. Then it was interesting how Belly's friends point out the fact that it could have been like, well, maybe Conrad would have been the villain. But then what's exceptional is Belly points out that she could have been the villain. And I think that was something that, well, let's just put it fairly. How often does a movie or a TV show ever explicitly say, yeah, I could have been the villain? Usually that's something where it's like, no, we don't want to touch that. But instead, what Jenny Han did is she leaned into that. And I think that's one of the reasons why the show had been so good, is Jenny Han was very aware of what an audience wants and was very aware of really how to push these bars. Because a lot of times what happens is you get to these moments in time where the stakes are so high that it's almost like you can't quite deliver whatever it is. I mean, through this whole season, you're waiting to see if this couple is going to pair up. I'm purposely trying not to say the names. And so through this whole season, you're desperately trying to see how this couple is going to couple up. And if they're going to do it, how is it going to happen? And yet somehow Jenny Han pulls it off, and she does it in this way where, as high as the stakes are, she's able to make these people very likable. And just when you think there's no way that someone can quite obtain it, once again, they pull it off. And that has to do with the writing. I mean, even looking at Jeremiah, he had been so villainized and had gotten relentlessly mocked all about how he had wanted a particular cake in the show. And it's only going to make sense if you had watched the show. But really what ended up happening was it was breadcrumbs to lead us along to this realization that his desire was he wanted to be a chef or a cook or whatever you want to call it. He had this vast interest in food. And this was something that I think was so well done that, once again, it was out of context, it sounded absurd. And then finally you got to the finale and you're like, oh my God, this actually makes sense. He wasn't absurd. This was his interest. And that was something that was done so well. You look at such characters such as Taylor, and she's had so much growth because you look at her in comparison to the book. And a lot of times in the book, it's like, she's very unlikable. Whereas when you look at the series, it's like, oh, she has a lot of dimensions to her. And I think that was something that was really well done within the writing. And then, words are great and the writers can write a lot of things, but it's also the actors. So you need not only the words, you need that creativity behind it, but you also really need these actors to be committed to what they're doing and bring that hopeful spin to it. And with the character Taylor, the actress does a really wonderful way in bringing her to life. And then even perfectly with the new addition of other characters such as Denise. She's a great character in the concept that she's this side character. She has some development, but she's not overly involved, or the stakes aren't necessarily as high as the other main characters. And with her having such a limited amount of time within the series, because once again, she's only introduced in this last series, the way that she comes in and it's really this fresh breath of air, and then all of a sudden really brings this ability to create other characters to be likable just by her being within that presence. I think that is another really uniqueness to the writing style of this show, and also that ability of the actors to bring that to life. So all in all, hats off to Jenny Han. I think she really made a time capsule piece with The Summer I Turned Pretty. I think this is going to be a show people go back to look at as far as wanting to remember what times were like in, 2022 to 2025. So moving into our next topic is there is a new biopic movie on Hulu, and it's called Swiped. It's the story behind the founder of Bumble. Her name is Whitney Wolfe Herd. So this movie follows along Whitney on her journey of really how she founded and created Bumble. And so for any of you that don't know, or any of you that haven't watched the biopic movie, so first of all, I think what's really unique about this movie is it does state, one, it's a movie. So even though it's based on true events, there is a lot of dramatized moments within the movie. And seeing some articles from Whitney Wolfe Herd, she was actually quite against this movie. She tried to shut it down. So you get to follow Whitney along in the making of Bumble, and it really starts with her roots and how she was part of the original team of Tinder. So after having seen some articles about Whitney's perception on the movie Swiped, after seeing she really didn't have any involvement, and seeing that she was kind of fighting more for this movie not to be made, and she didn't love the idea of her story being out there, or at least not in this variation. She does have her story out there. So I had watched Swiped when it first had come out. So I had actually heard of Whitney Wolfe Herd prior to this biopic. I knew exactly who she was. I knew that she was part of the original team of Tinder, how they got that dating up and off the ground, and the success of it. And I remember hearing her story on the podcast show called How I Built This, and her episode aired back on October 16th of 2017. And if you want to look up that episode, I'll have it linked in the show notes below. And if not, her episode was called Bumble and then Whitney Wolfe. I remember when I had first listened to her story, and it was really unique to hear her whole perspective on how she had started at Tinder and just what the culture of that company was like. And then how her experience from working at Tinder really projected her and propelled her to move into the creation of Bumble. And one of the most unique things about Bumble, and I remember her even mentioning this on How I Built This, was how she would go to college campuses and she would get people excited on the college campuses to propel the momentum of Bumble. And that was really cool. And what was so unique about Bumble that no other dating app was doing was the whole concept was ladies make the first move, which of course anybody in society knows that was a complete flip on really the society norms, gender roles, all these different things. But I also think it brought a lot of intentionality to why Bumble was so successful, because Bumble was really seen as that relationship dating app, whereas other apps such as Tinder didn't have this. Because I remember even being in high school, and when Tinder had gotten popular, you knew what Tinder was. You knew what the intentions of Tinder was as well. It was very easy to see, like it wasn't hard. But Bumble was one of those apps where it's like, no, I'm looking for a serious relationship. That is why I'm using Bumble. And that was something that was revolutionary with this whole app and everything. So if you're curious to hear her story, you can watch the biopic Swiped on Hulu. Or if you actually want to hear the story from Whitney herself, there's two great episodes. There's one from the podcast show How I Built This that came out back in 2017. And then there's a newer episode on the podcast show Diary of a CEO. That one was released November 14th of 2022. The name of her episode is called Fighting Sexism and Winning - Founder Behind the $1 million Tech Company Bumble. So if you're someone that's always interested in seeing how someone has built their success or rebounded from any kind of major failure, Whitney Wolfe, her story is great. It's exceptional. I remember the first time hearing it and really being blown away by it. So definitely check that out. So in our next topic here, it's another movie, but it's more of like a Marvel update, let's say. So on Disney Plus, they released released one of the newer Marvel movies called Thunderbolts. I remember over the summer seeing some different TikToks about the Thunderbolts and seeing how people were saying, oh, this is so good, it's so good. And so you know how much I love a good superhero movie, even though I will say I had been recently disappointed with some of the Marvel movies up till now. So I went in watching the Thunderbolts with kind of like a low bar, thinking, okay, how good is this going to be? And I have to say, it actually really blew away my expectations. I mean, my bar was almost on the ground, let's just say. And I will say, when I first started watching it, to me, they felt like a bunch of anti-heroes. It had a darker vibe, and sometimes you just wonder, like, how are you gonna recreate what was something that was already, like, really great to begin with, you know? Because a lot of times you think about just the Avengers and how great that original cast was in those movies that went along with it. And now you look at how they're trying to recreate that success again. And in my mind, I'm just like, I don't know if you can really recreate what did so well the first time around. But by the end of the movie, I was really surprised on where the story went. You know, obviously it's a bunch of anti-heroes. Obviously they're going to unite. But it was one of those things at one point in time, you're like, I really don't know how all these characters are going to mesh together. And then somewhere along the way, they kind of did. Like, in a weird way, like, they meshed really well together. And then my personal favorite was really the angle the story went in, where you're just looking at the story of these characters and you're just like, I really don't know what the resolution of this movie is going to look like. And just to kind of see how the characters evolved and seeing how they came together, and they really kind of made like this magic happen. And it was really, when you looked at the first few Avenger movies, you know, you're thinking like the Tony Stark, the Captain America, the Black Widow, and all these different characters come together. And there was really like this dynamic magic that happened. It was really interesting to see kind of how that dynamic magic happened again. And it was really through the conflict that they faced. Now, obviously, I'm trying not to give too much of the plot away. I think my favorite part of the whole outline of the Thunderbolts was obviously you got to see this new group of heroes really come together in this dynamic way. But what was also really neat is getting to see what the villain of this movie was like as well, because it wasn't as distinct as maybe some of the other movies are, where it's like, oh, it's this absolute evil thing. And instead, it really brought in this whole new layer of storytelling. And so I thought that was something that was really unique with this individual story. And it'll be really interesting to see how Marvel will eventually build upon this story, because obviously they're going to do a whole new wave of Avengers. So it'll be interesting to see how this storyline actually plays out in a grander sense. So our next topic is we're going to move into some TikTok topics. So what has been really interesting, and maybe this is just like a niche thing that has popped up on my For You page, and I don't know how I got graced with this. So anybody that knows the actor KJ Apa, he was Archie from the show Riverdale. He created his own fictional character. Now, he has created his own fictional character. He has neither confirmed nor deny, but he has created this character on TikTok called Mr. Fancy. He is giving like Zoolander vibes, in my opinion, where he made his like own wig. He had gotten some like dentures or something, so his teeth look different than his actual teeth. And what's been so funny is he has started this whole series. He's got a whole TikTok account dedicated to this character, Mr. Fancy, and he's actually released a song. At first, when like the first video or so came out, you're kind of just like, I think that's KJ Apa. I'm not really sure. And then what's been so funny is he's really doubled down on it. And so once again, people are like, is it KJ Apa, or is this actually like a kind of like a doppelganger? And so one of his co-stars from Riverdale, Lily Reinhart, someone had asked her about Mr. Fancy, and she had kind of like acknowledged it's KJ Apa without kind of acknowledging it's KJ Apa. Funniest thing is he's actually gotten his first brand deal with Chipotle. It's just really funny to see how KJ Apa has taken over this little corner of TikTok with this character of Mr. Fancy. And now, honestly, I keep waiting to find out that he's like making a movie and Mr. Fancy is like the main character or something. It's kind of giving like Hannah Montana, except everybody knows who KJ Apa is too. So, but yeah, so let me know if you have any thoughts on Mr. Fancy. If you've seen Mr. Fancy, drop some comments down below. This next topic from TikTok that I think is hilarious. Has anybody heard about the Anthropologie rock collection? So this trend was created by Phoebe Adams. What she did is she went out, she got a rock from her backyard, cleaned it up, wrapped it up in like some paper, like as if she bought it from Anthropologie. So what she did is she was sitting down unboxing this rock, and she's like, oh, babe, to her boyfriend, and says, check out this new decor piece I got from Anthropologie, and it's a rock. And she goes, isn't it just like the most beautiful thing? I mean, her boyfriend really was buying it. And if I have a clip, I'm gonna roll a clip.
Oh my god, Dan, come here. My rock came in.
Your what?
My rock. For our entryway table. Oh my god, I'm so excited.
What did that?
A rock from Anthropologie for our entryway table.
You bought a rock.
Oh my god, it's perfect.
It's a rock. Wait, how much was it? Wait, you bought this?
What do you mean I bought this? This is like the cutest rock ever. It's gonna sit on our entryway table.
It's just how much?
It's not just a rock. It's a one-of-a-kind rock that they found in the ground.
That's where rocks come from.
They literally found this in the ground, and there's no rock like this.
Because every rock is different. Wait, how much did you spend on the rock?
It wasn't that expensive, honestly. It was on sale. It was $150.
Oh my gosh. You spent $150 on a rock?
Wait.
I can go find you a million rocks.
No, this is actually a special rock from Anthropologie, and I'll show you how cute it is.
I don't know. We're not doing all this.
Look at this rock.
Oh my god, I can't. It just looks...
Oh my god, that's so cute.
No, it's not. It just looks like a rock.
So yeah, he seemed like he was really convinced by it. But what was even better is other girls started doing it to their boyfriends and husbands on how they had bought a rock from Anthropologie, to the point Anthropologie has now gotten in on the joke. They have created their own rock collection, and it's like set up in their store. So let's roll a clip of that here. So yeah, so it's wild. I have to say, people that are working in the marketing department for Anthropologie, like, bravo, that was great. And it was fast. I mean, I had just heard about this whole rock collection thing like a couple days ago. And the fact Anthropologie has already gotten in on the joke and rolled out a whole table collection. And they're offering a giveaway. It's hilarious. I think it's great. But, you know, once again, you always wonder how powerful TikTok is. And then to see that a content creator just created a total spoof, a total joke just for their boyfriend, and now Anthropologie has gone in on the joke. I mean, that is hilarious. So moving into our last topic with TikTok, is this topic is all about Dancing with the Stars. Now, if anybody that knows Dancing with the Stars, I will say probably up to a couple years ago, Dancing with the Stars just always seemed like a show that, like, I don't know, like my grandma or my aunts would watch. It wasn't something that I really kind of overly cared about. And now within the last like year or two, I've noticed I'm like, wow, Dancing with the Stars is kind of like, dare I say, cool? Like there's something going on there. So looking up Dancing with the Stars and trying to figure out like, okay, who's driving this new audience? They are having like a resurgence among like a TikTok audience. What they've done is they've started to bring on social media influencers as part of the cast. So like a perfect example is they've had like Charli D'Amelio. She was a big time TikTok influencer. They've brought on other social media influencers such as like Harry Jowsey, who was both a social media influencer and also reality star. You now see Alex Earl is on the cast of Dancing with the Stars. And so what Dancing with the Stars has done is they've had this resurgence among younger people because they have been putting up clips of the show on TikTok. And dare I say, it's ingenious because if you think about Dancing with the Stars, it's a dance. So it's just the length of a song. So really all they're doing is they're editing down just the dance and they're putting it on TikTok. And now they're driving this younger audience to TikTok and they're using younger talent to get a bigger audience. As much as people are watching the show, and I believe it's airing on Disney Plus, people are watching the TikTok clips. Like I think I watched the whole last season all via TikTok clips, but I would also dare to say I really enjoyed last season the most just because I knew a lot of the celebrities and it was really cool because they had a lot of different Olympians in the mix of the cast last year too. But what's cool about this season is they have Robert Irwin as part of the cast. And so anyone who doesn't know who Robert Irwin is, he is the son of Steve Irwin. A lot of times you are aware of some of these celebrities or some of these people, and now putting them on Dancing with the Stars, you get to see a whole different side of their personality. So it's been really cool to see how Robert Irwin is now part of that cast. And then there's a bunch of other people that, you know, familiar faces that you're like, oh, this is really cool. So now Dancing with the Stars has kicked off their latest season. And I have to say, they always have a lot of like drama, like in a way you wouldn't necessarily anticipate. So it's always kind of exciting to see what's going on behind the scenes there as well. But yeah, so they've kicked off their newest season. So you can catch their clips on TikTok or you can watch it on Disney Plus. So moving into our next topic, YouTube series. So I have have recently seen there's this whole new YouTube channel called Celebrity Substitute. This is a really cool concept. The guy that hosts this show, it's called Celebrity Substitute. That's the name of the channel. But what they do particularly is they go into schools, and so they'll have teachers that volunteer their classes. And what they're doing is they're getting celebrities that are in the process of promoting different projects. They're having actors, they're having musicians, they're having all different types of people. They're coming in, and it's cool because these actors or these musicians, I've seen a couple with musicians where they'll come in and they're teaching them one of their like hit songs. For example, there's the musician Role Model. He comes in and he's teaching one of his hit songs. And it's really cool because a lot of times like these songs could be explicit, or maybe there's certain content that's not appropriate for children. And so what they do is they rewrite the song, but they'll keep the beat of the song the same, but the words will change. What's also happening is the teachers of these classrooms get to kind of be like Big Brother. So they're watching through cameras, they're getting to see. And what's happening is the teachers are grading the celebrities on how good of a substitute they are. And then sometimes at the end of the episodes, the kids will also grade how well the celebrity substitute did. These kids are on the younger side, so like they have no filter. It's awesome. They're hilarious. But my favorite part is at the end of the episode is Amazon sponsors the whole video. So they end up fulfilling the teacher's wish list. And it's cool to see how Amazon is giving back to teachers in the community around. Now, for our last topic of the pop culture report, we are going into music updates. So there's two musicians I want to talk about in particular. So the first one's going to be Justin Bieber, and the second one's going to be Hayley Williams. So Justin Bieber, in less than like 4 months, he has released 2 albums. So the first album he released was Swag, and that was back in July. And now he's released a second album called Swag 2, or Swag II, because it's the Roman numeral 2. And that was released back at the beginning of September. And you've heard in the news in the past how he has sold his music catalog, so he didn't really own any of the rights or wasn't really benefiting off any of his music anymore because he had sold his catalog. And so now what's so special with these 2 albums is he owns the masters to both of these albums, and he's gotten to have the creative control of creating these albums as well. And I think that's something that you can really see and tell within these albums. You see everything from the visual component of the photos and the photo shoots, the way that he's marketed the album. And what's been really unique, I think my personal favorite, is just seeing the way that he's written some of these songs. You know, some of the more popular songs off of his album Swag, the first one, was Walk Away. And I think that was a great visualization of just his relationship with his wife, Hailey Bieber. And then you get to see again in his song Daisies. And you finally get to see a side of Justin that's always kind of been like watered down. What we're seeing because of having these 2 albums released back to back, you really get to see how much creativity he really has, where now because of having the creative control, he gets to really put out the music the way that he wants to put out. And honestly, I think one of the coolest things about Swag, the first album that was released in July, was when he does the little monologues or the speaking between tracks. And this is the closest way of getting to actually know Justin Bieber is through his art. When you look at these albums and just the way that some of these tracks will just be him talking or explaining things, is you are getting to see a side of Justin that we've never gotten to see before. You know, we've all gotten to see him grow up in the limelight. We've all heard different controversies about him and gotten to see so many different phases of life. But this is a moment in where he has true creative control. And he's really at that moment in life where he's ready to just share what he has. And it doesn't seem as though he really kind of cares about the criticism of it. It's really more the like, no, I've worked really hard to get to this point, and now this is what I want to put out. And I think that is something that has been really special to watch in this whole journey. And even moving into his second album, Swag 2, it's funny because I didn't even realize Swag 2 had been released until I was randomly on like TikTok or Instagram and someone had used a song. And I remember hearing it and being like, I don't remember hearing this Justin Bieber song. And then to find out it was actually off a new album that was released. And one of my favorite songs off of that album is called Mother and You. And it's really this beautiful expression that you can see of how fatherhood has made this big impression on him. So moving into the second artist I wanted to talk about, her name is Hayley Williams. Now, Hayley Williams is one of those individuals that I believe if you don't know her, you just may not know her name. But for anyone that doesn't know, Hayley Williams is the lead singer of Paramore. She has the songwriting credits for songs like Ain't It Fun, Decode, Misery Business, All I Wanted, All We Know, and these are some of Paramore's popular songs. But what she's done is she has self-released the album Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party. And so she's done it through her own independent imprint, Post Atlantic. So this is really cool because she has always been tied to a record label. So this is really exciting where she's actually self-released, gotten to put all this work out. And something that I really love is I love her style of music where it's very raw. I really like the mixture. It's kind of like this pop punk rock, this type of feel to it. One of her songs that I really loved was this song called Parachute. And she has these 2 lines in that song that go like this. It's says, I thought you were going to catch me. I never stopped falling for you. And so something that I always love to highlight or really take notice of is when artists get the opportunity to really own their own work per se. These are great examples like Justin Bieber and just being able to own his own masters, even Hayley Williams getting to self-release this album, because as artists, things that you don't always see is how these artists don't always own their own work. So they'll pour all this blood, sweat, and tears into these projects, and a lot of times at the end of the day, they don't always own them. And it's easy to look at it from the different point of views, but at the end of the day, these artists, it costs them something to put this work out, and they put so much into it. I think it's great to always take a moment to acknowledge and just be like, that's awesome, because that's not always the case when you enter into some of these creative fields. And of course, I think in a lot of ways, this has really been highlighted because of obviously Taylor Swift and the whole Taylor version. As you can see, it's really been something that has become a more spoken topic. And I think that is great, and something that needs to continue to be spoken about is just this ability to profit off your own work. I think it's great. So Justin Bieber, Hayley Williams, they have both released new albums. You should go check those albums out. Those are great. Well, actually, Justin released 2 albums. But anyways, both those albums are great. So that is the end of our very first pop culture report. I have to say, pop culture is something that always very much intrigued me. And if you couldn't tell from previous episodes, you definitely know now. Like I said at the top of this episode, if you find any new trending topics, music albums, or movies I should take a look at, I'd love to hear your thoughts, or drop a comment down below. We'll have another pop culture report for you next month. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, and thank you so much for chatting with me about all things pop culture. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, like I said. So with the new layout of this segment, we are not going to be having any episode in the phrases, no quotes, and no sticky thoughts. But I'm always happy to talk about whatever topics you're interested in most. So like I said, drop a comment down below. So I'd love to connect with you more. You can connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Let's Unravel Pod. If you enjoyed this week's episode of the podcast show in general, please leave a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Your comments and 5-star ratings go a very long way. Also, please don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to stay up to date on all new episodes. We have new episodes coming out every single Thursday, and you're not going to want to miss a thing. We have a lot of new exciting things coming your way. So I guess it's that time of the episode to tell you my hot take. Am I picking The Summer I Turned Pretty, the TV series, or am I picking The Summer I Turned Pretty, the book series? I think honestly, you probably know which way I'm going to go after I just spent a majority of this episode talking about The Summer I Turned Pretty. Though I will say I'm going to go with the TV series, even though I usually prefer the books in comparison to the TV or movie adaptions, except like I said, I think Jenny Han hit it out of the park with this one. So I'll give it to her on the TV series for that, but I want to know your thoughts. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Well, that's all. I'll talk to you later. Bye.